Acts of Legends. The sun, a blocky beacon in the cerulean sky, cast long, crisp shadows over the rolling hills, but Cale's gaze was fixed not on the familiar landscape, but on an aged, tattered map clutched in his calloused hand. For weeks, whispers had followed him from village to village, tales of a fabled artifact, the Acts of Legends, hidden deep within a forgotten jungle temple. It was said to grant its wielder power beyond comprehension, but always, the legends ended with a cryptic, unsettling warning. A price, vaguely hinted at, that even the boldest adventurers chose to ignore. Kyle, a seasoned explorer with a pickaxe for a conscience and a sword for a companion, merely chuckled at the ominous addendums. Power was power, and fear, a mere illusion. His small, cobblestone dwelling, nestled on the edge of a whispering spruce forest, hummed with a quiet anticipation. Inside, he meticulously prepared. His iron armor gleamed freshly repaired. A diamond pickaxe, sharp and ready, rested beside stacks of cooked pork chops, a full quiver of arrows, and a newly crafted shield. He checked his inventory one last time, a confident nod accompanying his movements. His journey would begin at dawn. The next morning, the forest awoke to the crunch of Coil's boots on fallen leaves. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Sunlight dappled through the dense canopy, painting shifting patterns on the forest floor. The initial hours were peaceful, marked only by the gentle hum of bees and the distant coo of pigeons. Kyle moved with purpose, his senses alert, navigating by the sun and the worn lines on his map. He passed by a small, silent village, its few inhabitants moving about their daily routines with an unnerving quietude. A single villager, standing near a well, met his gaze with eyes that seemed too wide, too still. Before quickly looking away, Kale dismissed it as nothing, a fleeting oddity, his mind already set on the distant jungle. As he ventured deeper, the spruce trees gave way to massive oak and birch, then denser, more ancient flora. The light grew dimmer, the air heavier, thick with humidity and the scent of decay. Twisted vines hung like skeletal fingers from towering trees, and the ground became a tangled mass of roots and undergrowth. The cheerful chirping of birds ceased, replaced by the droning buzz of unseen insects and the occasional, unsettling rustle in the dense foliage. He heard the telltale groan of a distant zombie, the faint hiss of a creeper, sounds that were now closer, more frequent. His hand instinctively rested on the hilt of his sword. Days blurred into a relentless track. He fought off opportunistic zombies under the cloak of twilight, narrowly dodged the explosive fury of lurking creepers, and outwitted skeletal archers hidden in thickets. Each night, he dug a small dirt hole, barricading himself in, the sounds of the encroaching wilderness a constant lullaby of danger. The forest was becoming wilder, more untamed, as if protecting its secrets with increasing ferocity. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the map led him to a clearing. And there it was, not a grand fortress, but an ancient moss-covered structure, almost swallowed by the jungle's embrace. Vines choked its crumbling walls, and its stone blocks, once meticulously carved, were now discolored and cracked. The entrance, a dark maw beneath a tangle of roots, beckoned with an eerie silence. This was the temple. The air around it felt strangely dead, devoid of the jungle's usual vibrant hum. With a cautious step, Kale entered. The interior was a labyrinth of echoing corridors, dust motes dancing in stray beams of light, filtering through cracks in the ceiling. The air was cold, damp, and smelled of earth and forgotten secrets. Pressure plates lined certain sections of the floor, triggering hidden dispensers that spat out arrows with an unsettling hiss. Kale moved with the grace of a practiced explorer, disarming traps, his keen eyes spotting tripwires hidden amongst the debris. He encountered a few skeletal guardians, their bone clatter loud in the silence, their arrows easily deflected by his shield. Spiders dropped from the ceiling, their scuttling legs a chilling symphony, but his sword made quick work of them. Deeper within, the sounds of the outside world faded entirely. The silence was absolute, broken only by his own footsteps and the thumping of his heart. He navigated past pits of bubbling lava, scaled precarious ledges, and finally, after what felt like an age, he reached a large circular chamber at the temple's heart. At its center, on a simple, weathered stone pedestal, rested the Axe of Legends. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its blade, forged from what appeared to be dark, polished obsidian, radiated a faint, deep purple aura that seemed to hum with a quiet energy. No elaborate carvings, no shimmering jewels, just raw, potent power emanating from its perfectly balanced form. It looked deceptively simple, yet utterly menacing. A thrill, cold and electric, surged through Kyle. This was it, the culmination of his journey, the answer to the whispers. He reached out, his fingers closing around the cold, smooth hilt. The moment his skin touched the axe, a jolt, not of electricity, but of pure, concentrated energy, coursed through his arm and into his very being. A low, resonant hum vibrated in the air, seemingly emanating from the axe itself, and perhaps from within him. He felt an immediate surge of strength, a sense of invincibility that settled deep in his bones. The axe pulsed with a newfound vibrancy in his grip. This was power. But as the hum intensified, the chamber around him seemed to darken. The straight beams of light through the cracks in the ceiling twisted, turning sickly green, then fading. A chill wind, carrying the scent of damp earth and something metallic, swept through the chamber, stirring the dust into a macabre dance. Kyle frowned, a flicker of unease replacing his triumph. The warning? He pushed it aside. A small price for such immense power, perhaps. He turned, the axe now a powerful extension of his arm, and strode out of the temple, back into the jungle. But the world outside was no longer the same. The vibrant green of the foliage had taken on a muted, almost sickly hue. The air, once thick with humidity, now carried an oppressive chill. The sky, though it was still daytime, was a perpetual twilight, overcast with heavy, bruised clouds. The low hum of the Axe of Legends, which Kale now realized was coming from the axe itself, seemed to distort the very atmosphere around him. Then came the sounds, not the distant groans and hisses, but a symphony of aggressive snarls and the frantic clatter of bone. From the shadows they emerged, not just regular zombies, but hulking, armored husks that moved with unnatural speed. Creepers, their green skin a deeper, almost black shade, seemed to pulse with unstable energy, their fuses burning with terrifying speed. Skeletal archers, their eye sockets glowing with an eerie red light, loosed volleys of arrows with deadly precision. And then, the Endermen, numerous, their tall, slender forms shimmering into existence around him, their guttural growls a chilling chorus, their eyes fixed on the axe, a peculiar hunger in their obsidian gaze. The Axe of Legends did grant power. It cut through mobs with terrifying efficiency, each swing resonating with raw force. But with every victory, more seemed to appear, drawn by the axe's terrible magnetic pull. He wasn't just powerful, he was a beacon, attracting every hostile creature within a vast radius. This was the unforeseen consequence. The axe didn't just give him strength, it twisted the world around him, drawing out its darkest elements, turning the very landscape into a hostile, unending gauntlet. He was carrying a portable nightmare, and it was spreading. The journey back was a desperate flight, a constant battle for survival. He fought through throngs of the corrupted creatures, their numbers seemingly infinite. He slept little, constantly on edge, the axe's hum a constant reminder of his terrible burden. The world outside the immediate range of the axe still held its natural light, but he could see the spreading corruption, a dark stain following his path like a blight on the land. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he saw it, the familiar outline of the village he had passed on his way to the temple. A surge of relief, short-lived and quickly replaced by dawning horror, washed over him. The village was not quiet. It was silent, eerily, profoundly silent. The familiar blocky houses were overgrown with strange, dark moss. The farms were choked with decaying crops. The few torches that remained flickered weakly, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to writhe. The villager at the well was gone. In his place stood a single shambling figure, a zombie, its clothes tattered, its skin a sickly green. Other figures, once familiar, now roamed aimlessly, their arms outstretched, their groans echoing in the desolate air. The village was abandoned, or worse, corrupted. His quest for power had led to this. The axe hadn't just brought danger to him, it had brought it to the innocent, to the peaceful. The warning wasn't about the wielder, but about the world around the wielder. Cale's triumph turned to ash in his mouth. He looked at the axe, its dark blade still humming with that insidious power, and understood. He could not keep it. Its very existence, in his possession, was a plague. He remembered an ancient, half-forgotten legend of a place of pure, destructive chaos, a realm where even the most powerful artifacts could be unmade. The Nether. With grim determination, his heart heavy with guilt, he set about gathering the obsidian. The axe, still humming, seemed to pulse with a greater intensity as he placed the final block. He ignited the portal with flint and steel, and a shimmering purple veil of chaotic energy erupted into existence. The air around the portal crackled, and the nearby corrupted mobs seemed to recoil, their aggression momentarily subdued by the sheer power of the gateway. He stepped through, the heat of the Nether instantly engulfing him. The sky was an endless expanse of blood-red stone, illuminated by rivers of flowing lava. Ghasts shrieked in the distance, their cries echoing through the vast caverns. Piglins, armed with crossbows, eyed him warily, their golden armor glinting. He fought his way past them, past the terrifying blazes guarding their fortresses, driven by a singular, desperate purpose. He sought the deepest, most volatile reaches of this infernal realm, a place where no artifact, no matter how powerful, could endure. He found it, a colossal sea of churning, bubbling lava, stretching as far as the eye could see, its surface roiling with impossible heat. The very air around it shimmered. This was the final resting place. With a deep, shuddering breath, Kyle raised the axe of legends one last time, its ominous hum a final, haunting melody. He held it aloft for a moment, the weight of his ambition and its terrible consequences pressing down on him. Then, with a cry of anguish and liberation, he hurled the axe into the molten depths. It fell, a dark streak against the fiery orange, and as it struck the lava, there was no explosion, no grand spectacle. Only a brief, brilliant flash of purple light, a final fading hum, and then utter silence. The dark, oppressive aura that had clung to Kyle like a second skin dissipated. The weight lifted. The terrifying hum in his ears vanished. He returned through the portal, back into the overworld. The sky was still a bruised twilight, the village still a desolate ruin. The corruption still lingered, a scar on the land, but the mobs, though still present, moved with their old, familiar slowness, their eyes no longer glowing with malevolent fire. The intensity had receded. The immediate, suffocating danger had passed. Cale stood in the ruined village, The silence now a mournful echo, not an oppressive void. He looked at his hands, once eager to wield legend, now bearing the invisible scars of its true cost. The axe of legends was gone, its power unmade, but the consequences of his ambition remained. He was no longer the confident adventurer seeking fame and power. He was a survivor, a witness to the terrible price of unchecked desire. And in the somber light of the perpetual twilight, Cale understood his new purpose, not to conquer, but to rebuild, not to seek legends, but to atone for the one he had disturbed. The world was forever changed, and so was he.